So, improving conceptual understanding of math. Okay. So, the STAR assessments have showed that, the results have showed that students lack a conceptual understanding of math skills and concepts. So, what we've decided at our school is that we implement some other types of differentiation that can help the students with the lack of conceptual understanding and to kind of fill in those gaps. So the differentiation, this had to occur in order to meet our students where they were and help with growth to get them where they need to be. The Accelerated Math program is an online program and it's linked to the STAR assessment. The Accelerated Math program is one that we've been using for a while now, and it correlates great with the STAR assessment and those skills and standards for our grade level. The differentiation comes from the skills and concepts with the use of manipulatives, so the students can get that concrete thinking. Representational activities where they can use drawings, tables, any type of picture form, and then they also use formulas along with the standard algorithms for the abstract thinking inside the Accelerated Math program. So even though this is an online program, we're going to incorporate all of these different differentiation pieces to get that conceptual understanding that the students are lacking. Zoom it in. Okay, so the purpose of this study is to help students conceptually understand math skills and concepts. In my grade level for 6th grade, we're getting so many students that have so much important gaps with their math skills and concepts that it's almost like we're trying to backtrack and we're missing out on the concepts that we're supposed to be teaching and the standards that we're supposed to be teaching. So hopefully with this study, this will improve that. So this is also to help students become better with math skills and concepts that build on each other with every grade level. So with what we do in 6th grade and even from the elementary, it all builds on to the next level. So what they've done in 5th grade builds on to what we're doing in 6th grade, and then 6th grade builds on to 7th grade all the way up into the high school math classes. And then also too, for them to generate strategies that they can use when solving math problems. So they aren't stumped as soon as they see a problem, they don't understand it, and they have no entry point at all. They have some type of strategy that they can go back to and they can use to help solve the problems. Okay, so based off of some research, some of the challenges that we've seen and that I've seen particularly, the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics addressed the issue that too much focus is on learning procedures without connection to meaning, understanding, or the applications that require these procedures. And this was out of the Principles to Action book. We actually did a book study with this book with all the math teachers in our middle school, and it was a great way to see why our students are struggling so much when they get to us. And I think that teachers seem to focus so much on the procedures and teaching the procedures and the step-by-step that when we get to us, our students can't make those connections to the concepts that we are going over to concepts that they've already done in math because they all build off of each other. The Common Core State Standards for Mathematics identifies the strategic use of appropriate tools as one of the mathematical practices and emphasizes the use of pictures and diagrams as reasoning tools. And that's another thing too that we seem to see throughout the last couple years is that our students really struggle with reasoning when it comes to math. They don't have those entry points to every math problem. They're so used to the drill and kill, and they don't have the appropriate tools to use and to completely understand the math concepts and skills that we're teaching them. So hopefully with the strategies that we present to them and the pictures and the diagrams, that helps with their reasoning tools, and they could be better with these skills. The CRA method is the concrete, representational, and then abstract. Memorization of concepts, rules, and procedures constrains students' ability to completely understand the information and apply it to new problems. I've come across so many times students can tell me exactly how to solve a problem, but they can't tell me why it works like that. Or they can tell me what the answer is, but they can't tell me how they got to it, or they can't tell me why that is the answer. So, and I think it goes back to it's all based off of, you have to memorize these steps, you memorize these procedures, and you're going to get to the answer, but they can't tell me why they have the answer that they have. Manipulatives have been common in teaching students with learning disabilities and those who need remediation, but could also be insightful for teachers who are trying to reach those students who do not respond to learning math in traditional ways. Throughout my few years of experience, I've come across so many students who have such a terrible attitude when it comes to math class because they lack the confidence, a bad experience from their elementary school, or the drill and kill, the time test. They have anxiety about it. So the manipulatives are a way for students to kind of feel more comfortable. It's a way for everybody to have somewhat of a entry point into a math problem. And I have found too that using the manipulatives for students with disabilities, it makes it extremely easier for them to understand and for them to visualize why the math is working the way that it is and how they're coming up with the answers. And a lot of times too, it helps the students that don't even have the learning disabilities. It helps those students that just don't even want to participate in math. As soon as they see the manipulatives, then they get engaged and they get excited about the math that we're doing. Technology in the math classrooms. Since we're using the accelerated math program, we are going to be using technology. Children learn in both formal and informal learning contexts. Using technology in both formal and informal contexts makes them a particularly significant learning tool. So a lot of times we have those students that can learn from me standing up and giving them a 5 to 6 minute spiel over a specific concept or skill, but then some students learn better when it comes to if they have technology in their hands. That makes it easier for them. So this kind of gives them an opportunity. They're going to be getting manipulatives, they're going to be getting different strategies, and they're going to be getting technology. For the first time, students at all levels can have a tool to help them solve problems given no matter the numbers. So technology is a tool, and students are nowadays even more familiar with the technology, sometimes even more familiar than the adults, so it helps with that. All students need to have the ability to solve problems, make connections with mathematics, and represent math using different forms, such as visually and abstractly. So visually, they can use with the manipulatives, and then also too with the representations with drawings and pictures. But then when we move to abstract, they'll still be using the technology as a tool, but they'll just be using the technology to get the problems from. Abstract work will have to be done with the paper and the pencil. And then those are my references. Okay, so my research question is, how does differentiation using accelerated math during intervention time impact students' STAR scores in 6th grade? So with the differentiation, like I said before, it's just with the CRA model. They're going to be using very concrete, using manipulatives, getting to move things around with specific skills and concepts. They'll be using, then we'll move on to drawings and tables, pictures with that same concept and skill, and then lastly move into the abstract, so very procedural. So then the students can see the connections and then hopefully get that conceptual understanding of the math. Justification of research methods. So the accelerated math is an online program that my school's been utilizing for the past couple years. The students are very familiar with it. You can actually go through, and it's super easy to manipulate. The students are it's very student friendly and kid friendly. They can go through, and I can actually choose what specific skills I want them to work on, or what standards. It tells me what standards and skills that they are that they need more help with, or they need some remediation with. So it's very helpful with that. my students struggle with conceptual understanding of math content. And that is such a huge thing. I'm constantly trying to fill in the gaps because the students are lacking that conceptual understanding of the skills and the concepts that I'm trying to cover in 6th grade. So it's like I'm having to backtrack to fill in those missing pieces so they can get caught up with the content that I'm trying to teach. 51% of the students entering the 6th grade tested below grade level in the content area of math. So a little bit over half of the students that entered in the 6th grade tested below that grade level. The participants for this study is going to be 25 6th graders, 12 are females, and 13 are males. All 25 students are below grade level in reading and math. 3 students with an IEP in reading and 1 student with an IEP for speech. So a very mixture of students, but all of the students are below grade level when it comes to reading and math. And that's what I think becomes some of the struggle for some students is they struggle with reading. So sometimes when they read some math problems, they don't understand exactly what is being said, or they struggle with some of the words, and then they tend to shut down for the rest of the problem, and then they just lose all confidence that they had at the beginning. So some instruments and materials that I used was the STAR assessment is used to measure the student progress, and the STAR assessment is linked very closely to accelerated math. Pre and post assessments will be used to measure student progress. The accelerated math curriculum will be used for differentiation and for the pre and post assessments. So I'll actually be getting the questions for the pre and post assessments from the accelerated math program. And I'll be using the differentiation I'll be taking the problems and the concepts and skills from accelerated math, and I will implement the differentiation into those problems that I get from the program. There will be a series of math problems that will be pulled and used from the program, and I will try to use a lot of word problems. Like I said before, the reading problem and the reading level really affects the students, especially when it comes to word problems and their ability to solve them. The CRA model, which is concrete, representational, and abstract, concepts and skills will increase in difficulty as they progress through the program. So a lot of times what I find is, especially when we differentiate with the CRA model, the concrete, the students catch on to it extremely quick because they're using the manipulatives, they're getting to play with things, they're moving things around, and they can get it a lot faster. So as we move on with the differentiation, by the time we get to abstract, it is going to be a little bit more difficult for the students. And then as we get through the content with the concepts and skills that we're covering, that is going to increase in difficulty as well. These are just a couple pictures of what the STAR math and the accelerated math look like. The STAR assessments are used to monitor student progress. Students that are scoring below the 25th percentile are considered for RTI. I actually cut the I off, which is response to intervention in that content area. So we look at the data from the STAR assessments that are given, and if the students are below that 25th percentile, they are considered to be in urgent intervention is what they call it. So we have to place them in that intervention for that content area. The STAR assessments are only used for STAR math and STAR reading. Students have individual goals they are expected to reach for each STAR assessment. So before the STAR assessment is administered, we look at the data from the most previous STAR assessment that was given, and each student and I sit down and we set their own individual goal for the next STAR assessment before it's taken. So some examples of problems from Accelerated Math Program for differentiation and for the pre and post assessments. These questions are very abstract, multiplying a fraction by a fraction, but what I do is I can take these problems and I can use specific manipulatives that help to make them more concrete and representational, and then they move to solving it abstractly. The CRA method could be used for this concept by using fraction tiles for the concrete and patty paper for the representational, and then the standard algorithm for abstract. So those are the problems that I take. Those are examples of problems that I take from the program, but then I try to implement the concrete using things such as fraction tiles, and then also patty paper, which is huge when it comes to fractions. It's a great way for students to, it's almost like an in-between concrete and representational, because they still get to use the patty paper and actually fold it and manipulate it, and then they draw on it for the representational piece. So the STAR assessments, this is the data collection. So these are administered once a month. So, and once a month we're goal setting. So that's something too. It assesses students on math standards. It identifies math grade level. And it identifies standards and skills for reteaching and or intervention. So I think that that's what's so great. I mean, even as a 6th grade teacher, it tells me if the student is on 4th grade level, and if they are on 4th grade level, it tells me the exact standards and skills that the kid is missing and what needs to be retaught to them. So it's very convenient and it's very informational when it comes to that piece, which is great for us, especially with us not being in the same building as elementary. So it kind of gives us a resource in that aspect. The pre and post assessments, these are going to be given every Friday. Those are mostly post assessments. There's not a pre-assessment given every Friday, only if we start new content. But like I said before, these are taken from the accelerated math program, so same types of problems, based on the CRA activities and lessons. So for the post assessments, I may ask them to draw a picture to represent their answer for a specific problem, or use different strategies, or solve the problem in a variety of ways. So that brings in those CRA activities and lessons that we've done. And then questions will be pulled from the accelerated math program. So the data analysis, this graph indicates the percentage increase from the baseline data to post-instruction data. So this is all about the STAR assessments. So what I did was I broke it up into the 5 standards that I differentiated with. And the growth from the start of the program to the end, all the participants are below grade level in reading and math. The auto placement STAR assessment was used, and each student has individual set goals for growth. So what I believe is that why students are not on grade level, a lot of it is because I have IEP students. Those students are lacking a lot of skills, and it affects their ability to be able to be on grade level with the math content, and and with my speech student that has an IEP, I really have to work a lot of times on how I'm saying things or how it is written. So a lot of times I'm trying to articulate that to her. Students lacking conceptual understanding and foundation skills in math, like multiplication, facts, division, and low reading levels. Not saying that this is something that they should have memorized, but they should have some type of strategy or some type of foundational skill to get them to the multiplication facts or to understand how to divide. So that's really holding them back from being on grade level as well. So for these specific standards, the first standard, the increase from the start data all the way up to the post-instruction data, so all the way to the end of the study, based off of the STAR assessments, I had about 65% growth for that first standard, 70% growth for the second standard, 60 for the third, 80 for the fourth, and then 60 for the fifth. So this intervention group specifically showed a lot of growth from the start all the way to the end. So this is for the number of students mastering objectives based off of the pre and post assessments that were used. All students are expected to master at least 5 objectives a week. So that is a goal that's for every student. So it doesn't necessarily matter the standard. They just have to master at least 5 objectives every week. This graph shows over a 2-week time period, there are 4 students that mastered 5 objectives, 1 student that mastered 8 objectives, 8 students that mastered 10, and 12 mastered 15 objectives. And over 2 weeks, they should have at least mastered 5, or 10. That would have been the goal, 5 a week. So after 2 weeks, they should have mastered at least 10. So the 5 students that did not meet the 10 objectives mastered in 2 weeks are at risk of not reaching their individual goal. And not reaching the class goal either, because all students are expected to master at least 5. Why students are not on track to reach their goal: students having that IEP, behavior, lack of focus, the time taken to reteach skills since they are below grade level, and the difficulty with reading when it comes to word problems. I find that when students are struggling to understand, especially in math class, and I think it is with reading as well, instead of pressure being put on them or them thinking that they don't know everything that they should know, they want to act out and they want to be a behavioral problem. So that shows the lack of focus, and then the behavior issues. So the data summary for the STAR assessments: all students are working on skills below grade level. 80% of the students are showing growth based on the STAR assessments. Throughout the use of the CRA model, students are growing on the skills they are working on. Many students need reteaching of foundation skills in order to move on and master the concepts. In some standards, students are showing more growth than the others. So there's a couple standards in particular that students are showing a lot more growth than some of the others, and these standards are so correlated and connected to each other. I think that it goes back to those foundational skills. They just don't see the connections. So that's why they're only showing so much growth in just a couple of the standards rather than all 5. The data summary for the pre and post assessments: 5 students did not reach their goal of mastering at least 10 objectives in 2 weeks. These 5 students are at risk of not reaching their overall individual goal. There is a lot of time reteaching skills and concepts that are foundational to the skills and concepts they are working on. So there's a lot of time that's taken away from them actually working on mastering those 5 standards or those 5 objectives, that because of the reteaching of the skills and the concepts, so they don't get as much time to work on those objectives. The lack of focus, the behavior problems, and attendance is a factor for these 5 students. I mean, if they don't show up, then it even puts them even further behind, so that is also an issue. So some next steps for this research question. So for these research questions, after I have analyzed all of the data and everything, obviously based off of my my whole data collection and everything, using this technology and using this program is benefiting these students. Now, these are 25 students that are below reading level and below math level as well, so grade level wise. So using this whole program and using the CRA model, it is helping them to grow when it comes to 6th grade standards. So are they completely getting a whole conceptual understanding and foundational skill? It's probably going to take a lot more work with this, but for the most part, us taking it only to 5 standards and then maybe even extending it out, I think is probably going to be the best bet. And then also not only using it for this group, but then, I mean, the growth that I've seen just in these 25 students that are below grade level in both content areas. If it's just a student that's only below grade level in math and they're above grade level in reading, that reading piece isn't holding them back. So it's just the conceptual skills that they're lacking. And with the CRA model and using the technology from the accelerated math program, I think that it would benefit them as well to use this program and to see growth in the math content area. So I think that some next steps is to not only just use this program for one of the classes, but also for all intervention classes. For those students that are testing below the 25th percentile in math, they should all be using the accelerated math program and the CRA method. So some reflection for the classroom question. So I was given the opportunity to see the effects of the accelerated math program and the CRA in the classroom. It was great to see the connection between the two and how you can actually take those accelerated math problems and incorporate the concrete with the manipulatives and the representational as well. I analyze data to see the growth in students throughout the school year with the math content, sharing the effects of this program and these strategies with other math teachers so they can understand the impact it has on our students. And that's done in the Math PLC group. And that's also where we came up with the idea of not only just using this for one intervention class, but also for all of the math intervention classes. And this helped me to see the importance of reteaching, conceptual understanding, small groups, mastering those foundational skills. And that was the most beneficial piece, was to small group these kids, reteach them those skills that they're lacking. They got extra time to work on their math, which helped them with the conceptual understanding of the math content. This is the PLC focused question, so this is shifting gears a little bit. So this question, what strengths and weaknesses did the norms survey reveal about the 6th grade team at Carroll County Middle School? So the participants were 7 team members. All teachers were 6th grade teachers. 1 is in her 27th year of teaching, 3 are in their 3rd year of teaching, 2 are in their 2nd year of teaching, and 1 is in their 4th year of teaching. These particular people did not take the survey, but they are a part of the PLC. Curriculum specialist who focuses on every subject area or every subject in each grade level, and the principal and the assistant principal also sit in on these PLCs. The instruments and the materials. I used the norms survey, which is just a 1-page survey. 7 members completed the survey, which were just the regular 6th grade math teachers. It was used because the norms are not something that the team sticks by or uses properly. It's something that we normally make up at the beginning of the school year, we collaborate on it at the beginning of the school year, and then we don't really touch on it that much throughout the school year. It was most appropriate to use this survey with grade level PLC for our school. I feel like with some of the other PLCs, like for the math PLC group, we do stick more to our norm survey. So I felt like for this grade level PLC group, it was most appropriate to use this norm survey. And the survey gathered information about the knowledge of our team's PLC. So this is a picture of the actual survey. Some of the questions, I know the norms and protocols established by my team. Members of my team are living up to the established norms and protocols. Our team maintains focus on the established team goals. Our team is making progress toward the achievement of our goals, and the team is having a positive impact on my classroom practice. So it was only 5 questions. So the data collection, the survey was administered during our Wednesday meeting. We always meet once a week on Wednesdays. The survey was anonymous, no one put their name on it, and was completed during our meeting the Wednesday that it was given. So as soon as I passed it out, everybody completed the survey. Members just placed them on an empty desk for me to collect face down. So it wasn't like there was any way for me to figure out who wrote what. So the survey used the following scale. 1 was for strongly agree, 2 was for disagree, 3 agree, and then 4 strongly agree. The data analysis was that for each of the 5 questions in the survey, the best score we could get for each question would be 28, since 17 members were completing it, and the highest score you could get was a 4 for each question. I broke each question up and calculated the average score from all 7 surveys. So I took each of the 7 surveys and calculated up the average score. So the analysis for the strengths, actually, question 1 and question 5 were the biggest, the strengths that I found based off of this survey, which is I know the norms and protocols established by my team. So actually knowing the protocols and the norms that we come up with is not the issue. The team is having a positive impact on my classroom practice. So us collectively as the 7 groups of, or the 7 teachers actually are having positive impact on classroom practice based off of the survey. The weaknesses was question 2, 3, and 4. Members of my team are living up to the established norms and protocols. So apparently not everyone agrees with members living up to the norms and protocols, which is one of the reasons why I administered this survey. Our team maintains focus on the established team goals. So focus is an issue. and our team is making progress toward the achievement of our goals. So obviously, if focusing on the goal is an issue, then making progress toward the goal is more than likely going to be an issue as well. So the strengths based on the survey for the data analysis, teachers know the norms and protocols established by the sixth grade team, and the team in general is having positive impact to classroom practices for the sixth grade teachers. So neither one of those seem to be an issue. But the weaknesses, the analysis says that members of the sixth grade team are not living up to the pre-established norms and protocols. There's not a focus that is maintained, and there's not a lot of progress made toward the common team goal. So for some next steps for this PLC question, the actions that will be taken will be based off of our team's weaknesses. There will be a review of the team norms and protocols before each PLC meeting, and I think that's something that we just didn't seem to do, and that's why we lost so much focus, was we didn't review those team norms and protocols, which it seemed to me, based off of the data from the survey, everybody seemed to know them, but I think reiterating them before each team meeting even helps keep that focus. There will be a norm set in place for no sidebar conversations to keep the focus in mind, so I think that would help us with focus as well. And then our team goals will be reviewed regularly, and we will keep track of our progress toward the achievement. So even if it's just like some short little scoreboard that we keep in our team binder, if we could just look at that regularly and keep track of it by using the scoreboard, I think it will help us toward the achievement of that goal. So the reflection norm survey gave me the opportunity to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of the sixth grade team. Colleagues' opinions helped me to get the accurate scoring, so there was no way for me to, it was anonymous, it helped me to actually get an accurate scoring and how they truly felt about the norms of our team. Next steps are doable with everyone on the team participating, so I feel like there won't be any problem as long as everybody buys in. And then after sharing the results with my PLC, they were very motivated to address the weak areas. We were able to have great conversations about these areas and collaborate on how to improve them.